What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gamer Dad channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So I'm revisiting the world of The Division and The Division 2 from a different perspective. I've always been fascinated as to how, this game worked. First as a gamer and then now as an independent developer who's been learning game development, dabbling into some projects here and there, and exploring what this whole game development thing is about. Today we're going to talk about The Division's iconic open world and why it is iconic to its aficionados and to its audience and fans, and some of the things actually that did make it stand out at launch when it came out, and even still makes it stand out till today. If you guys have noticed, I don't know if many of you have been reading any of the comments in the comment section when it comes to, the Division 2 and new content. A lot of people always chime in and quip that the developers would be better served if they were to be able to replicate this feeling and this emotion that the Division 1 incited. The Division 1 is actually very interesting. Nothing like this had really been seen in a while, or I guess ever. It was an ambitious game. You could say this game probably took 6-7 years to put together after maybe it was first conceptualized. And the way the world is so grim and dark, and the fact that it allowed for you to be able to explore an open world, it allowed for you to be able to go ahead and do team play, matchmaking, untethered open world exploration. Very interesting, by the way. I don't know if any game, had really done this before. The last game that even tried this was Gotham Knights, but the game's infrastructure is not built like the Division's infrastructure, which most of this game itself is being run on a server. You have to be online to play it. So that AI is run on server, according to Frederick Thylander. He mentioned a few things in a Twitter post during the conversations about Outriders having its fully online play. So this is when there was reason, because the PS4 at the time, the Xbox One at the time, did not have enough computing juice to be able to run this game. In fact, many of you remember this game was 30 FPS on the Xbox, One and the PS4. It wasn't until the series that they did just the frame boost with Xbox, but PlayStation is yet to do its frame boost. I don't know if it's happened or not. But that aside, those are performance metrics. It's interesting to see how the world really did accentuate a lot of this. The snow that's actually here, and that really gloomy, perspective, it really allowed for you to kind of maybe just disconnect from, I don't know, from, you're playing a video game, right? And your goal playing a video game is that you are in a different setting virtually. I know it sounds crazy. What has this world turned into? Where we're over here talking about disconnecting from the real world. But I'm just saying it in the terms of, you're engaging in this world. Your eyes and your visuals and your auditory senses are being engaged in a way that, you're not being, you can't be, it's not easy to get that kind of engagement because, obviously, everything has not turned to this. Hopefully it doesn't. And, you're not running around with a gun and a backpack with all kinds of threats around you, right? But it is still interesting to be able to explore that world. So, like reading would allow for your imagination to be able to fly to, piece these things together. Gaming will allow for you to be able to kind of experience it from a visual, auditory, and even tactile perspective. And I think this is what the Division's open world really did bring to the table. Everybody that played it was just like, wow, this actually looks good. Wow, this actually feels good. Yeah, there were those who were expecting, when they said Tom Clancy, you were coming into Ghost Recon and whatnot. But this game doesn't have that vibe. In fact, the developers had actually thought about at one point making this game a stealth game. But they, somehow along the development of the game, they decided to remove, the entirety of stealth. And the game basically is, something that, yes, you can engage in ambush tactics, but there is no stealth in the game per se. You can't necessarily do that from the perspective of how the game actually does play. Which is actually interesting that they thought about stealth. But one thing about stealth and open world games is the context is very interesting overall. This is something that I think they kind of, started to kind of give the world a little bit of some soul, but wasn't really implemented as good as it was in the Division 2, by the way. I just thought I'd make that a side note. Giving civilians resources that you might have. I think it's actually a pretty cool concept, a resource that maybe in your inventory, maybe there's a scan that goes on with your inventory, and then the civilian basically selects something that you have in your inventory. Pretty cool way to kind of program stuff. And then you basically see this decay going on. This, whatever happened here is bad. You know, you could tell this is vandalism at its, finest. And it literally, like, it's probably still going. I don't know. They just to represent it, it melts off most of the, if not all the snow, because the ground here is still kind of, at a different temperature. You see these animals creeping around. You see these alleyways. Very, very interesting to, to go ahead and just evaluate all what was put in this world as a whole. Also, the scale of the decay is well accentuated in this game. Like, look at this. This is, an entirely, cornered off area. This is the dark zone. It's literally right here, right? And so the dark zone was very, very iconic, people. It literally, took this game from every other game to its own unique game. When you say USP, unique selling point was literally this dark zone. Now, the dark zone is intriguing. It's a whole different conversation. Probably maybe do a whole video on it. But let's go ahead and highlight it a little bit. Very intriguing, concept to add to a video game like this at the time, especially when, technology was still very limited. You went ahead and built a whole New York map. You're running this thing on servers, and then you add like a whole area that has slightly different rules, followed its own rules. Rogue and be rogue, betray and be betrayed type deal, right? And you have these entrances to it, to this contaminated area, right? Where you actually have to basically go, it's a quarantined area, sorry, because of contamination of some sort. And, you're able to go in and you're basically able to find loot and extract the loot. I think this concept should have basically stayed fleshed on perpetually. Ubisoft Massive did itself a huge disservice not following through with the concept of the Dark Zone in a third Division game almost immediately after the Division 2 came out. I think going and chasing down, following with the second Division game, yes, but in the structure within which the Dark Zone was done and zoned out, I strongly believe that the developers, had the ability to have basically expanded upon what the Dark Zone was about. That unique selling point, like I said, most definitely one of the coolest things that you could ever see in a video game. And the DZ was pretty much it. Let's do a walkthrough around the DZ in the next video. How about that? I think it's going to be something that really does, highlight some of Division's strongest points. It will really bring to light what really did make this game stand out overall. We'll talk in that video about it. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys' time and audience. I like the Division. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be looking at it from a, game design perspective. I've created an entire playlist as well with all of these videos, so feel free to check it out. And hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.